Alright, for these questions, we have to identify the vertex and axis of symmetry of each of the following by converting them to vertex form. Then we have to sketch the graph of these functions. So question 11, we have to convert this quadratic into vertex form. So how do we do that? Well, first step, make sure that the coefficient of the x squared term is 1. In this case, that is true. The coefficient is 1. So moving on to step 2 now. Step 2 is doing b divided by 2. And we know that b is negative 12. So negative 12 divided by 2 is equal to negative 6. So this negative 6 right here will go inside the parentheses with x. So what I mean by that is, so I'll just rewrite this. So parentheses, x, and then drop this negative 6 down. Minus 6, and then squared, because vertex form is always x plus or minus a number squared. So now we just drop down this 36 plus 36, and then we need to find the term that goes to the right of 36, and it's always going to be a minus sign since we're squaring a number. All right, if we square a number it becomes positive, but then we have to add that negative sign onto it. All right, so how do we find the term that goes to the right of 36? Well, we have to do this number, negative 6 squared. So what we basically did was we did b divided by 2, and we got negative 6. Then negative 6 goes inside the parentheses with x. Now to find the term that goes to the right of 36, we have to do negative 6 squared. And we know negative 6 squared is equal to positive 36. So we're doing 36 minus 36. So rewriting this out, the 36 will cancel out because 36 minus 36 is equal to 0. So we're just left with y is equal to x minus 6 all squared. So that's our final vertex form for question 11 right there. So we need to find the vertex and axis of symmetry for all these functions right here. So how do we find vertex? Well, the vertex is basically the opposite of the number inside the parentheses. And then the plus number, the number that goes outside, is the y-intercept, or sorry, the y value of the vertex, not the y-intercept. So to find the x-coordinate of the vertex, we have to set this to equal to 0. So x minus 6 is equal to 0. And then x is going to be equal to 6 because it's the opposite of the negative 6. Got positive 6 for the x-coordinate. So the vertex, just write this out. The x-coordinate, we know that's 6, right? So the y-coordinate is going to be 0 because the y-coordinate is always the number that's over here. So it's going to be plus or minus 0. So 0 is our y-coordinate for the vertex. So step 1, we found the vertex. Now step 2, we got to find the axis of symmetry. Now the axis of symmetry is very easy to find. It's basically the x-coordinate here. So we're setting x is equal to 6. That's basically the axis of symmetry. And I'm just going to write that, axis of sim. That's equal to x is equal to 6. That's our axis of symmetry. Now, that's it for question 11. We found both of them. Very easy to find. Just follow these steps, and then you'll get the answers. So question 12, got to do the same thing. So make sure that the coefficient of the x squared term is 1. In this case, it's not. It's negative 1. So how do we make it so it's positive 1? Well, we got to divide negative 1 on both sides of the equation. So I know that y divided by negative 1 is just going to be negative y. That's going to be equal to, so negative 1 divided by negative 1, that's going to be positive 1. So it's just going to be x squared. And I know negative 6 divided by negative 1 is going to be positive 6, x. And then negative 10 divided by negative 1 is going to be positive 10. Alright, so step 2, we got to do b divided by 2. Now b is 6 in this case. 6 divided by 2 is equal to 3. So this positive 3 will go inside the parentheses with x. So let's just rewrite that. negative y is equal to parentheses x plus 3 squared. And then just drop this plus 10 over. Now we need to find a term that goes to the right of negative 10, or sorry, the right of positive 10. So we just gotta square this 3 right here. Then 3 squared is positive 9. Except we gotta make sure that this term is negative. So minus positive 9. That is still negative 9. Alright? So there you go. So we got positive 10 minus 9. So we just gotta simplify this. So let's just rewrite it. Negative y is equal to x plus 3 squared and then plus 1. Now we need to make sure that the y is isolated and make sure it's a positive. So to make it a positive, we just gotta divide by 1 on both sides. So what we did was like we divided by negative 1 and now we're just moving that negative 1 back over once we converted it into this form. So y is equal to negative x plus 3 squared. Think of this as like negative 1. Plus 1 divided by negative 1 is equal to negative 1. So that's our final vertex form for question 12 right here. That's it. Let me circle that. Alright, so to find the vertex, it's going to be the opposite of the positive 3 here, because we're setting x plus 3 equal to 0. So x in that case will just be negative 3. So the vertex, we know that the x coordinate is negative 3. So the y coordinate, that's just going to be the number that's outside the parentheses. So we have minus 1 here. That's simply going to be minus 1 for the y coordinate. Now for the axis of symmetry, that's just going to be x is equal to the x coordinate. So axis of sim. And that's going to be x is equal to negative 3 because we set x equal to the x coordinate. Alright. Now that is our vertex and axis of symmetry for question number 12. And so we're done. Now we got to graph both of these functions. Let's start with question 11. So we know that the vertex is positive 6 and then the y coordinate of the vertex is 0. So positive 6, 0, we can graph that right here. I know that positive 6, 0 is going to go right here on the graph. So I know that the function is going to open to the positive. It's going to open up because we have a positive 1 here for the x squared term. And that's going to tell us that it's going to go up into infinity from the vertex 6, 0. And then the axis of symmetry is going to be x is equal to 6. So just like the x coordinate. So we know that the axis of symmetry is going to go here along the x equals 6 line. So it's going to be right there. The dotted line is our axis of symmetry. So that's our final graph for question 11. Question 12, let's graph this one. So we know that the vertex is negative 3, negative 1. So let's graph that. Negative 3, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. So right here, and then negative 1. So our point's going to be right here. So which way does this graph open up? So if you guys can see right here, the vertex form, we have negative and then x plus 3 squared. So this negative right here, outside, it tells us that this graph is going to open downwards. So whenever it's like negative, it opens downwards, and if it's positive, without the negative here, that would open upwards. Just remember that. That's just a really basic rule. Important too. Alright, so it's going to open like that. And the axis of symmetry, that's going to be x is equal to negative 3. So let's graph that line here. That's going to be this line right here. That's our axis of symmetry. So that will be our final graph for question number 12. So the axis of symmetry is going to be the dotted line. And make sure that you remember the rules to positive and negative. So negative is like it opens downward, and the positive, it opens upward. And these are just like rough sketches of the graph. You guys can like plot in the x-axis, and then you'll find the exact points where the graph hits. I hope this helped, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Like and subscribe. Enjoy, guys. Practice problems are up on the website.